Hello there, welcome back. This is my third final episode for the day on Strive's Talking Points. This is Ellen Page. This is her interview on February 1st, talking about Hollywood, Trump, all that stuff. I'm probably going to have to make this into a two-part video just because her actual interview is 9 minutes long, and I'm not really wanting to skip over a lot of it, but I do want to kind of go through what she's talking about. So we're going to just jump right in. This is the point where he asks about how Hollywood has changed in the last few years.
So,
yeah. Good for you. Good for you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. This, I guess this is, I first interviewed about you about 5 years ago, which was shortly after you first came out publicly. Has Hollywood changed? People say Hollywood is more progressive than it was. Oh, you're smiling already. Oh, you're adorable, Stephen Colbert. Is that the case? You find a change in the last few years?
I think, yeah, I mean, look, there's clear evidence that it has changed, that there is some progress. There's, like, some more representation, but honestly, I really think we need to hurry up. It's not cutting it. Hollywood and the film industry in particular is just so binary.
Okay, so more representation. It's so binary. I pulled this up. I wanted to see. In the U.S., 3.8% of people identify as gay and lesbian. Adult percentage, 0.058 are transgender. So I'm trying to think of a show that I watched or that I've seen where gay or lesbian is not involved, and honestly I can't think of really anything. That is always built into just about every movie I've seen, every show on television, where there must be there has to be a gay part, and it's fine. I mean, it's just part of what Hollywood does these days. Transgenderism, you see quote unquote trans people in a lot of shows, and I don't think it's that strange. I mean, when I was a kid, we grew up and there was you always would hear about drag, men dressing as women, women dressing as men. Now, in order to fit the bill, they call a lot of those people transgender instead of gays or lesbians. But anyway, 3.8% of the U.S. population, 0.58 in California. It's 4.8% and 0.76. So you see there, California is definitely higher on the national average, and yet more representation.
And it is so, I find, can be narrow in its ideas of who can tell stories and who can be in the stories.
Now, what...
And I hope it continues to change. And like I say, clearly there are changes, and
Clearly there are changes. Who can tell a story? We're currently going through a period where you see a lot of big movies fail, a lot of movies not get the traction people want them to have, especially if you look on Twitter. They are hardcore into certain groups, which if you're marketing for the smallest percentage of people, let's just call that 5%. You're excluding 95% by the forced inclusion of this. Now, I'm not going to say that it wouldn't be, as a straight person, I don't see any issue with gay characters. Sometimes they're very entertaining. Transgender people, I don't care. I mean, they can be in there or not be in there. It doesn't matter. Gay or lesbian issues, again, doesn't really matter. They're just ubiquitous. I mean, they're in every show, always, and there's not really a problem with it. But if you're trying to tell diverse stories, you're consistently limiting the market that you're going after.
there's extraordinary people that are leading the way and doing that. But I hope it continues to go quicker.
Yeah, and everybody wants it to get better. Hollywood is well known for its misogyny, its hate, its homophobia, its transphobia, how evil they are towards any group, because that's what Hollywood does. That's how they live their lives, and that's California. They are just apparently racist, sexist, just bad.
Because there's certain things that I'm just sick and tired of, yeah.
Anything in particular?
Well, I mean, I've worked in this industry for a while. You know, I grew up in Canada. I started working at 10, and then sort of the hard candy Juno time, late teens, early 20s. And in terms of the level of misogyny and homophobia I've dealt with, yeah, it's been really unfortunate. Yeah.
So, dealing strictly with Hollywood, since she was 10, it's very misogynist, it's very homophobic, and this is the art form that produces, you know, gay characters in every TV show, is always out talking about it. It's all you see out of Hollywood these days. We're on this feminism kick, and all these different types of ideas are playing out, and she's just, you know, sick of it. How they've treated her, held her back. I mean, she's been in lots of shows. I'm currently watching The Umbrella Academy. It's pretty good. I more or less like her character. Not a huge Ellen Page fan overall, but she's really dry, and I don't know. Sometimes I like dry characters, sometimes I don't. It's just neither here nor there. Continuing.
What would you go back and say to that young lady who is dealing with that now? Do you think some advice you could give to young actresses who perhaps maybe don't have the confidence to be themselves, or young actors who don't have the confidence to be themselves right now, and to stand up to the role that is laid upon them, or the identity that's laid upon them? Because as a young performer, you want to work and you don't want to ruffle any feathers, and it can be hard to stand up for your own self.
Sure, it is. And it was very hard for me. And I dealt with a lot of stuff that was totally normalized. Since really young, you know.
What would you say to that young person? How would you?
I'd give her a hug. And I would tell her she's not alone, and that she can reach out to people, and that behavior is not okay.
That's the most important thing, I think, is for people not to feel alone, and to know that there are other people going through the same story. There's a community for you to be a part of, and that gives you strength.
100%.
Well, you're environmentally conscious. You're involved in a lot of environmental causes right now, and as a performer, you of course you understand the importance of getting the audience's attention. Do you have any idea how we can get the public and the media to pay more attention to what's happening in global warming?
Now, I don't know if you know this, but there are CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, Vox, BuzzFeed, all of them have multiple articles every day on global warming, environmental impact, all these things. They're everywhere. Stephen Colbert, a late-night TV host, is bringing it up on I would assume, an interview comedy show. And yet, it's still not enough. It is everywhere.
Because it's there's such a long time span where these effects will happen in really dramatic ways.
Is it that long? I think they're happening, these effects. They're really happening.
Well, they can be explained away with other explanations until the water just starts swamping Manhattan, or just washes away Mar-a-Lago.
I do just think...
That's the joke there. Until it floods New York, until it destroys Trump's golf thing, they can be explained away. I don't... There are a fringe group of people who don't believe that global warming is happening. I mean, if you look at the trends, you can clearly see that since people started keeping accurate temperature records, the Earth is warming. Where everything comes into play is how to combat it. What do we do? How do we do it? How do we not destroy everything in order to slow it down? And if the U.S. can slow it down all on our own, what happens to the rest of the world? What do they do?
For example, like, I know...
But you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Even I, who believe it, go,
yes.
Oh, I hope it's wrong. Maybe it's wrong.
No, I hear you.
Because you don't want to think that such terrible things are going to happen.
Of course we wish, but it is. And I just want to say, too, people, particularly the most marginalized people, and particularly people in the world that had nothing to do with this, are the ones that are suffering the most currently.
Now, that's the trick there. The marginalized people are the ones suffering the most. It can't be a worldwide threat. You have to... She is pointing to marginalized people. Now, I still am so confused over marginalized people. Does it mean the minority population, which means marginalized people changes by country? Does it mean marginalized races, meaning more insignificant quantity of a racial group? Let's say, let's see, there are, you know, a few billion Asians. They're the largest group population-wise in the world. Would then the marginalized people be the limited number of peoples? Let's say maybe couldn't really use Hispanic. There's like 1.5 billion. I don't know. How do you define marginalized? Is it just going to rotate by country?
Including in Canada, including the environmental racism that's happening in Canada, including the province I'm from.
What's environmental racism?
It disproportionately affects people of color, whether it's like the disproportionate amount of landfills that are placed next to communities of people of color in Nova Scotia, or whether it's about a pulp mill in Pictou, Nova Scotia that's been there forever and has destroyed the environment and the land of First Nations people.
Okay, so she's specifically going after native peoples in this region. I would assume the reason you have more landfills in areas of people of color. I'm going to have to look that one up. That is amazing that she's bringing that up. However, this will be the first half of the video. I will come back with the second half here shortly because I am trying to keep these videos under 12 minutes. So thank you, and please comment below.